Welcome to the Dream Catalyst podcast. I'm Joan Daniels, your host. I believe God has given you a dream. He has given you a particular purpose and path to walk out in this life. And because God has given you this dream, He's given you everything you need in order to walk that purpose and plan out. All the right people, all the right circumstances, everything you're going to need to equip you and empower you along the way. And that's what this podcast is about. I pray that it blesses you, empowers you, and brings you hope. Welcome to the Dream Catalyst podcast. I am super excited to bring you one of my besties. She's amazing. We're going to have the best conversation. It's going to be like a cup of coffee at IHOP, right, Lisa? So I'm super excited to introduce you to Lisa Little. Lisa is one of Austin's premier luxury real estate agents. She is boasting over a decade of experience because she should be boasting. I'm boasting that she has over a decade of experience and more than $150 million in sales. Lisa, you're the bomb. Her exceptional service and deep market knowledge have earned her numerous accolades, including Best of and Top Producer designations, as well as membership in the prestigious Dripping Springs Elite Real Estate Professionals. Lisa is committed to understanding the dynamic Austin market and the diverse needs of its new residents. As a certified luxury home marketing specialist, that's serious, and real estate negotiation expert, which I can attest to, she advocates for her clients while making her a standout in both buying and selling sectors. Her dedication to helping others achieve their dreams extends well beyond real estate. Active in her community, Lisa has served on educational nonprofit boards and spent 4 years as a board member and co-chair of the local Chamber of Commerce membership committee, where she helped double membership, lead synergy meetings, and taught networking skills to new members. She continues to mentor entrepreneurs and host mastermind groups to support women in business, even recruiting some to join her real estate agency. Well, team. I said agency. That might be a prophecy. So welcome, Lisa Little. I do the applause around. Oh my gosh, I'm super excited that you're on this. You were like my first person on my list. I was like, Lisa's got to be on the podcast. So welcome. Tell us about you or your story, a little bit about your story, please.
Well, first of all, kudos to you for doing this. I'm so excited that you are starting this venture. I can't even tell you how excited I am for you. So yay for Joan. Let's just talk about that for a second.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm thrilled beyond belief to be here. So thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so you wanted to know a little bit about me and where I started and where I came from and all the things. So
yes,
I grew up in California, and
people don't know in Texas that's a thing. Like everyone from California is moving here, so that's why she said,
"Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing." But I married a fifth generation Texan, so thrilled to be living in Austin. We've been here now for what are we at? 10, 11 years. I think we're at 11 years now. Living in this little sweet town of ours outside of Austin, Texas, and loving everything about it. I have a background in sales and marketing, and I think it really started when I was a Girl Scout and was definitely like on that mode that I had to be the best at cookie sales. And I was out every day with my little wagon selling cookies. And my
shout out to the Girl Scouts, little entrepreneurs. Yeah. I love that.
And I can't stop by. And I mean, I can't go buy any Girl Scout without stopping and buying a box of cookies. Even if we're not eating those cookies, I'm giving them away because I just have to support those girls.
Me too.
So I knew as a kid that sales was probably going to be something that I was interested in. So started my career in high-tech sales and marketing, selling business communication systems. Learned a tremendous amount in that role. I worked for AT&T and Lucent Technologies, so they were all about coaching and teaching and training and all the things. So I was really blessed to be able to get there. And business to business sales is not all that exciting for me. It was more.
I agree.
Yeah, just a job to make ends meet, or to do great things. So totally loved it. Made some dear friends there, and loved everything I did there. But once I got married and started having a couple kids, decided that that was not for me anymore. So I left that world, retired from that world, I'd like to say, um, and started doing some interior design stuff and started trying to kind of figure out what my next life was going to be, and started staging. I was introduced to staging by a couple of my girlfriends who became realtors, and they said, "Lisa, you would be great at this. Why don't you try this?" So I started my own staging business out of my house, which was really out of my garage, to my poor husband's dismay. We had a 3-car garage and nothing was going to fit in there except for my staging stuff. So did that for 7 years. I did that until we decided to make the move to Texas. And when we made the move to Texas, which was amazing, I'm still so happy that we made it here. I decided that I was going to hang up my staging hat and get my real estate license. So I got my real estate license. 3 months after we moved to Austin, I knew one person in Austin, one. And that was my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. And I decided I needed to figure out how I was going to get going in this business. And so I had a really good friend that I met at a birthday party. You might know her. It's
We've been power partners a long time, sister.
we have. And that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. So let's just tell the story.
Me too. One of the best things that's ever happened to me too. Honest.
Yes.
Grateful
Yes.
for you. We were soul sisters from the beginning. So
yes, from the second that we met each other at that birthday party, I knew. So you are the one who guided me into the Chamber of Commerce. I had joined chambers before, but more from a corporate background, not from what I was doing with real estate. And so I decided I was just gonna stick by you and watch what you did. And then
that's giving me way too much credit. Let's just start.
Well, you taught me how to use the chamber. That's what you taught me how to do. And so I just stuck by you. And so joining the membership committee and then teaching those classes that we were teaching on how to network and meet people and use the chamber as our sales team. That's how I grew my business. That's how I grew my real estate business here. And I have loved it ever since. I wish I had jumped into real estate 10, 15 years earlier. I had no idea how much I was really going to love this until I got into it.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because one of the things on this podcast that I hope to do is bring people hope, right? If you are thinking you're supposed to be doing something else, or you had this idea, this dream in your heart, like, were you like me, Lisa, when you were little? Like, I used to run. Okay, I know, like, it's not me now, but I'm just saying back then, I was a cross-country runner, believe it or not. I used to run like multiple miles a night. And I used to run in my neighborhood and, all around where I lived in Arlington, Texas. And I used to run and I would pass by people's homes and I would get that waft smell of, like, what they were cooking, or maybe their laundry or whatever. And I would literally think, like, this is how positive bubble my life is. I would be like, I hope their life is going well, and like, I would just imagine them having a great evening. Like, I would imagine them cooking and the family together. And so I had this picture of homes and what it would look like. And it's very, picturesque in my mind. But did you have that kind of experience when you were little, or did you just fall in love with homes and real estate later?
I think I probably fell in love with homes and real estate later. I think I always loved to get to know people on a real personal level. I think that's why I liked cookie sales and all the other things that I was doing as a kid, right? Because my dad always says I have the gift of gab, right? The gift of gab. That's what Lisa
Me and you
has.
both. Do you get in
Yes,
trouble for
yeah.
talking a lot? Did you always get in trouble?
Always. My dad would, my dad would always make fun of me for always talking. And in school, always, it's like, sit in the back of the class, be quiet, because I was always gabbing away with somebody.
And
But
don't you think it's ironic that now we kind of gab for a living? Like,
right?
it's kind of hilarious.
It
So
is.
again, just point out there for people, if you have a gift like gab,
like maybe you should be utilizing that in your life, because that might be a God gift. There are people who don't have the gift to talk to people,
You're
and meet
right.
people and love on new people, brand new people. There are people who are scared of people, and I'm like, really? Like, you know me, I want to hug them and hold them and be like, you're gonna do it. It's gonna be good. You're gonna, like, I believe in
Right.
you. Like, I want to do that with them, and
Right.
so I just think that's my gift, and other people have other gifts, but it's hilarious to me that what I signed the book, that was what we had to do in like kindergarten. You signed the book, and then you had to like miss recess or something and stay inside. I signed the book the first time in kindergarten for talking during class or whatever. Like, it was always for talking.
Sure. Always.
Oh,
Always. I used to get sent to the principal's office for talking too much, and I'd sit in her office and talk to her the whole time I was in there. I just couldn't stop talking. So,
that's hilarious. It's
the worst thing
hilarious.
you could do to me was make me sit somewhere by myself and not talk to anybody. But nobody ever did that to me. They never did that. They made me sit in front of a principal or in front of this person or that person. And I was happy as a clam. I'm like, okay, we'll just talk here.
Okay, so it's so funny that you say that, because the last podcast I talked about this, but we talked about the fact that whatever God gives you a dream and a plan and whatever, it doesn't look like you think it's going to look, and there's a lot of obstacles. It's not like a smooth, like, woo, I just floated to the top of my industry. And
Yeah.
hilariously, I mean, like, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong since I started the coaching company and this podcast. Like, I misspelled the name of my company and bought all the domains misspelled. I mean, if I could fall down more and just teach you it's okay, I would do that. And then like twice since I decided to do this, I've lost my voice completely, right? You know that. You can attest to that, Lisa. That happened.
Yes, it did. It did twice. I
That's
know.
so funny. Anyway,
Yeah.
so keep going. So your love of people is really kind of what you think drew you. Well, and let me just also say, because you didn't say this earlier, but like, you have a gift for interior design. And I was one of those, like, you remember when like the thing to, well, maybe you weren't in this space, but I was in the space where the thing to do as a mom, for the mom side of me that wasn't the business side, I would like go to the craft store, to Michael's or Hobby Lobby or whatever, and I would go buy the crafts and I would arrange the flowers, or I would paint the thing, or you know what I mean? And like, I thought, like, because I always loved beautiful spaces, I thought I like had some sort of talent there, until I met extremely talented people like you that can have a whole staging business. And one of my other great friends is an interior designer. Like, oh yeah, that wasn't my gift, like, at all. Like, doesn't it crack you up when you walk into houses? I'm just going to say this in case people need to hear this, because it's not personal, but like, your pictures should not be above your eye level.
Yeah. Don't hang your pictures all the way up here so that you have to do this to look at them. You're supposed to be able to see them right in front of your face,
I
right?
remember the first
Yeah.
time someone taught me that, and I was like, what? And then I walked into my house and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like every single picture in the house had to be and now I've been to people's homes and been like, oh, they didn't know. I mean, right? But like, you have this gift, this God-given gift for interior design, for beautiful spaces. You have this, you also have this gift that is, you can walk into a space, okay, because I've done it with you multiple times. You can walk into a space and you can see what it can become. And a lot of people who are walking in, shopping for a house or whatever, they walk in and they're like, this ain't it, because they can't picture the paint change and the carpet change, the flooring change, and how they could rearrange things to make it work for them. But like, you have this inherent gift in your brain that you were just, God gave you, I think. I mean, you've developed it, but you know what I mean? It's something to be
It's
noticed.
it's funny that you say that, because when we bought our first house, I had no clue. I mean, no clue when it came to design, right? I mean, I came from corporate America. We just got married. We got married in 98. We bought our first house in 99, and we had our first kid in 2000. So it was like boom, ba-doom, ba-doom. And we bought this house that was way too big for us and way overpriced, because we fell in love with it. And we told ourselves we were going to buy a single story house on a flat lot with no pool. And we ended up in a 2-story on a hill with a pool. So, I mean, we just were that couple. And when we got it and we moved in, of course I was trying to nest, right? I was in that nesting mode. I wanted to like fix up my house and I didn't have a clue. Bill's like, we should put some new baseboards in. I'm like, what's a baseboard? Crown molding. What's crown molding? I mean, and he had to teach me all of these things, which was hilarious because I had no clue whatsoever.
But the other thing is we both married men that complement us so well. Cause like Jeff is my math science brain. And I have a degree in biology and a master's in PT. So I have a science brain, but not the physics. Like, hey, we have a word problem. How do we use math to fix it? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And like your husband is like Mr. Handyman, Mr. Construction. He's like, what is he? Civil engineer? Civil, right?
Civil engineer, yeah.
Civil engineer.
But
Okay.
he built things with
Both
his
married
dad.
engineers. I'm just saying, like, how cool is that we married somebody that like, and I was like, I remember the days when the kids were little going, thank God I married a man that's good at math because I would rather throw up than do math. Like, really. Like, give me a calculator. Right. I want a calculator. And I'm not bad at math. I just don't like it. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Thank God.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
I remember Jeff coming home. Okay, you're going to laugh. This is so funny. Okay. So in our first house, we had this bathroom under the stairs that was like, I was dreaming up things and looking through the magazines and being like, this is what I want to do. And, this was back. I mean, this is way back, sister. So this is like, think early 90s. It would have been like 97, maybe 1997. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do that like half wallpaper thing, half paint. Right. And it was under the stairs. So it had like that, like the whole ceiling was like this. So it was already a small little powder bath, but I was like, I'm going to make it fantastic. So I am a doer. And so I went and I got the sander and I got all the things. And so I'm there and I'm buffing the texture out of the wall because I knew for wallpaper, I needed it to be smooth. So here I'm like sanding, and it's taking forever. And I'm like sweating and I've never done a project like this, and I'm sweating buckets. And Jeff comes home from work like 3.5, 4 hours later. And I literally was like, oh my gosh, like this, you have to do this. Like, I'm done. Like my patience was gone. I had worn myself out. Right. And he was like, Joan. And I'm like, I just knew from the look on his face. He was like, there's no sandpaper in this.
Oh,
girl. I was like,
oh
my gosh. And he goes, this was his line, Lisa, which Jeff, so you will appreciate this. He was like, so you've been buffing the wall, like just buffing it for like 3.5 hours and you didn't notice? Oh, I have to melt it. But
that's when you go into a ball.
I was destroyed. Yeah, I totally. But I was like, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I'm gonna do the things, and thank God you had Bill to teach you because he would have known.
Oh,
you would have gone with him instead of Joan. I'm like, anyway, hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I think about those days, and then I think about what I do now for a living and how completely clueless I was about anything home decor, anything design oriented. I mean, I didn't have a clue. I had no clue. And I did those projects too. I faux painted our hall bathroom. That thing took me probably.
That's impressive.
It didn't look that good. Don't be too impressed. And it stayed that way for the rest of the time we owned the house until we put it on the market because I was not going to paint that bathroom again. I'm just going to tell you that 13 years it stayed like that because that was a lot of work getting it behind the toilet and all that. Oh my gosh, that was just a ton of work. But I learned design and I did it a couple different ways, but I learned it. But what's so funny when you say that I have an eye for it, I don't have an eye for interior decorating. I don't. I have an eye for staging because staging is different. It's, if you called me and said, Lisa, come decorate my house, and I love roosters, I could not decorate your house with roosters. Right?
First of all, you talked me out of roosters. No,
I would talk you out of roosters. I absolutely would.
I actually love roosters, but I'm with you. I understand.
I just couldn't do it because I don't like roosters. And so therefore I couldn't design anything around it. Right. And so I think that's what interior design is about. It's really about taking what is important to Joan and making her house lovely for Joan. That's not what I do. I design homes, staging. I did when I was a stager, more to find the features of the home that are beautiful and showcase that with furniture placement and pictures and lighting and all those things. That I have an eye for. And I learned and discovered that when I went and got certified as a stager. And I did get certified. I took a class. It was a 3 or 4 week class that I had to be there like 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And we went out and staged and learned and all the things. And I learned that I really had an eye for that. And what happened with that, which is kind of funny, that Bill actually does not enjoy as much as I'm very much a minimalist in my house. I do not have a lot of
God
stuff.
bless you. That's amazing.
My house is very just clean because that makes me feel good. And when I
Because
go
you
to
sell
all of them,
houses, and let's be clear, because you and I've done this process with my own houses before.
yep,
The thing is that when you're selling a house, you have to compete with somebody who has a brand new build that literally has no clothes in the closet. They
yep,
got nothing, no life going on in there, and they make it pretend to look like life, but it's
right,
not life. So it's
right.
super crazy clean.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
you know that about houses, I imagine you drift more towards the minimalist over time because you're used to seeing homes that way and trying to get other people's homes to be that way so that people can see. And I mean, tell me this, is the philosophy behind that as a stager or as a real estate agent that we're trying to get your house to look as neutral as possible so people can picture their life here? Or tell me, what's that about?
Sometimes, yeah, I think the neutrality of it is definitely important, because you do want people to be able to envision themselves and their furniture and their life in the house. But again, back to what I was saying earlier, it really is about showcasing the house. Like if you have beautiful hardwood floors and you've got rugs everywhere, because
Mm,
that's how you like to live, and those are beautiful rugs. There's nothing wrong with those rugs, but then you can't see those beautiful floors. Or if
right.
you've got big, beautiful windows, and you've got, drapery on them and they're covering up the windows, nobody's going to be able to see the windows. So we always say in staging, the way you live in your home and the way we market and sell your home are two totally different things. So we're really staging so that you can visualize yourself in there, but also just to see those features. And I think that's one thing that I love the most. Like I used to tell Bill all the time, his job was to build things, right? So he would get in and build things. And he would have this project at the end that he could say, look what I just did. When I was selling telecom, I didn't get to see, I mean, who cares what a phone looks like on your desk, right? There was no like final product. Now I get a final product. And even in real estate, where I'm not actually staging it, I still get to see it in the first process, right? When I first walk in the door and meet those folks and I see their home and I meet them and I understand who they are, and we go through that process all the way to where those photos come out. And that is absolutely my favorite day. When photos get dropped into my mailbox, I'm like, everybody go away. I'm looking at photos. It's like my favorite part. I can put them all together. I can see how the house came together, and then I can start writing up descriptions on the house. It's very, very satisfying. Very satisfying for
Well,
me.
it's so cool because people are so visual, right? The way your brain works is in pictures. And
Yeah.
so I totally get that. And I feel like, even having been a homeowner that you had to walk through that process, although me, it took like that long because as soon as you tell me to do it, I have it done. But we
Yes.
digress, or I digress. The
It's a
thing for
whole
me
nother
was,
story.
we'll tell that in a second. But the thing for me was just that, I get, because I've built a lot of homes from scratch and walked into those model homes and loved it. Like my favorite homes were always the model homes. I got to the point because I've moved like every 6 years for my whole life, except for now. Um, I feel like every time I went to see another home, like I got the idea of how I could transform it into what I had. But I saw a lot of homes that weren't staged, a lot of homes that had clutter everywhere, a lot of homes that had animals everywhere, right? Like I get that the psychology of it is, it's not your home anymore if you're selling it. You're trying to sell it to someone new, in which case you sort of have to take it all down so they see, like you said, the house and not
Mhm.
like your life, but their life in this beautiful space.
Right.
That makes total
Exactly.
sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but what I would tell everyone out there, just as a shout out to Lisa too, is another gift of yours is listening to your client and then helping them figure things out, because that leads me into my little quick story, which was I was living in a house. I had built it here from when we moved from Dallas to Austin. I mean, Jeff and I wasn't doing it by myself, but let's be clear, I picked all the things. I'm the woman, so I picked all the things. So anyhow, we built that home really kind of off the floor plan we had in Plano area, Murphy, Texas, actually. Shout out to Murphy. Murphy Parker Murphy is how we lived up in, which is near Plano, east of Dallas, northeast of Dallas. Anyway, so that floor plan, we wanted the same floor plan here, but we just needed to move neighborhoods. And so we found this beautiful neighborhood called High Point, and we built this gorgeous home. But it got to that place where we had kind of outgrown it, but I was still trying to make it work. And we had a lovely neighbor who was always kind of like, what was that Tim Allen show? What was that called?
Tool Man?
Tool Time. Tool Time. Shout out to Tim Allen with the guy with the fence, right? And so we had a neighbor that would do that, and we would sit on our back patio and just try to enjoy the outside because I love being in nature. And then like she would pipe in with her our conversation, and I was like, oh no. So Jeff and I go on a trip to New Orleans. We like wander through a chandelier store that also has fountains. I'm like, fountain, that's the answer. The fountain will be running. It'll cover some of our talking, and then at least we'll have more private conversations. So the fountain turned into a fireplace with a pergola covered, and then like the fountain was going to be out with a little seating area. It turned into about a $70,000 project. And I said to my great friend Lisa, here's what I'm doing, and and I was excited. And do you remember kind of what you said, Lisa?
I said, is this your forever home?
Yes. It was like a life-changing question, because I was like, well, I don't know. And you were like, but is this like your dream home? And I was like, can you see yourself living your whole life here? I was like, no, if I could move to a place with more land, if I could have more trees, if I could. And you were like, well, you remember the advice? You were like, well, don't spend $70,000 on this home if really what you want is a different home. And of course I was like,
you won't get that out of it. That's an investment that is absolutely worth it if this is where you want to be, because what's going on around you in the market and what everybody else's house is worth means nothing if this is your dream home. If this is where you want to be and you're planning to be here for a long time, then you do what you want to it and you make it yours. But if it's not your dream home, putting $70,000 into a back pergola and all for a fountain to keep somebody next door, might not be the best way to spend your money. So,
well, in case my former neighbor watches this, just so you know, it wasn't just about that. It was also about the backyard and being in nature. But you're right. When you really said that, it just snapped me too. And I was like, oh yeah, this isn't like, I'd always pictured this park-like backyard. And so I was like, I don't have that. I don't have the ability to even create that in the space I have now. So you really woke me up to that. And then, you can tell the hilariousness if you want of what.
Well, because I think it was that day, it must have been that day that I then hung up the phone with you. And maybe an hour later, I got a text. Do you know the code to the Polo Club? And I'm like, what are you doing at the Polo Club? Well, there's a house for sale. I'm like, what do you mean there's a house for sale? We just talked like literally 10 minutes ago, and you're already looking at houses. I should have known. I should have known. I've never seen anything like it.
I am just, okay. So everyone listening, my lifelong lesson that I'm still, God bless me, learning. Okay. We've talked about this. That I get over and over and over from God is patience. And I don't have any. Like once I make up my mind, I'm a doer. And so I just go do it. Whatever it is, I like jump in the pool and start swimming. Like I just do it because I just think that's the way. And it's probably what makes me a great entrepreneur, but it's not always, the easiest life to live. So God bless Jeff for riding that ride with me, and Lisa for being my real estate agent, because it was kind of hilarious. Because I believe, and I might be wrong, but Lisa, I think from the day that we talked about that to the day we had my house on the market was 8 days.
It was pretty close. It was pretty close to that. We had to get it in stage. So it might have been a little bit more than that, but it was pretty darn close. Really? I have never seen anybody move quite so fast. And when I gave you a task, let's pack that away and do this and do that, it was done before I even hit the driveway. I mean, I've never seen anybody move so fast.
You're
But
so
I have to say, knowing what you want and making what you want happen and become a reality is a God-given gift. I mean, it really is. There's so many people who overthink it and overanalyze it and spend, days and years, thinking about things, and you just do it. And I think that's a huge thing to be proud of, and I love watching it. I absolutely love watching it. It's a lot of
Thank you.
fun.
But if there's realtors listening, I will say like 2 weeks later, because I had a new puppy that was, I forget how old Belle was. She was very small.
Oh yeah,
And I
she
had
was.
3 little kids. I think my oldest was, I don't know. She was in junior high, I think. So I had elementary school kids even. And within 2 weeks of showing it and trying to trying to reproduce a model home, I was like, there ain't no way I can do this and run my business. So
Yeah.
I literally was like, we got to get a rental home. And I poor Lisa. Oh, Lisa, I need a rental home. I got to be out of here as soon as possible. And I think like 2 weeks later, I had the house packed and we were moved into a rental home. And you were like, oh my Lord, I have to push the gas pedal down to get this house sold, because I was like, I can't afford rent and my mortgage. And you were like, oh, so
Just a
God
little
bless you
stress.
for being my real
Just
estate agent.
Yeah, just a little stress when your bestie is paying a mortgage and a rent and rental, and they're looking at you like, please sell my house, please sell my house. Just a little stress, but it was
I
fine.
know.
We
I'm
got
so
it
sorry.
solved.
But
We
you
got
know
it.
what? The beautiful thing was, because you did introduce the idea of a dream home to me, and like, is this your forever dream home? I mean, I immediately started looking for my dream home. And what I will say that I'm really gifted at is I am really good at helping people and myself find the vision fast. Like, find the
Yes.
vision of where you want to go, hone in on it, and let's develop that vision so that you can create a future, right? That's why I
Right.
love coaching. But here's the thing. Like, I can recall, and I mean, you have to tell me the truth because we're good friends, so you can't lie about this. And we're on a podcast, which is like pretty much like swearing on the Bible, okay? So you have to tell me the truth. But I used to do things like, because one of my deals is I love beautiful spaces, right? So I love traveling because I'm going to see all the gorgeous things God's created. I love beautiful spaces, beautiful homes. Like I told you a million times, hey, there is a chance that one day I'll become a realtor with you because I love homes that much. Like I love it. Like I said, I remember jogging by thinking, fantastic life. So one of my things on vision was, I would create that vision for myself. Even when we were like Poe, not even with the OR on the end. I was so Poe, like robbing Peter to pay Paul and trying to figure it all out because we got, not because we didn't make enough money, people, not because we didn't make enough money, because we didn't manage our money well, which is a
Right.
whole nother podcast. But my whole point is, I mean, Lisa, I was the person at the open house for the $1 million home when I could barely afford my mortgage currently and was nowhere near $1 million home. But I would go in them and I would write my information down. And so I get the emails because I walked in every room and I imagined, and I took my shoes off and felt the carpet in between my toes. And I opened up the soft closed drawers, like, look at that. It doesn't even bang when it closes. I mean, right? It was hilarious.
Right.
It's what helped me create the vision. I even went to fancy hotels, and Jeff and I would sit in the lobby with the beautiful, like the Anatole in Dallas is gorgeous. There's several hotels in Dallas that we used to go to. And we would literally like buy a soda and get the free nuts or whatever they pretzels because we were so poor. But like that was our date night, was we would go and just like talk about our dreams and our vision and our goals and our path forward. So anyway, God bless you for taking me through that process. But I never would have actually said, hey, we're going for our dream home, especially the place that we were, because I was expecting to accelerate my business. Jeff was expecting to be promoted in his company, neither of which happened. I just want to say. And we still, because Lisa planted the seed, we still literally ended up building our dream house with everything we wanted in it. We ended up creating this amazing backyard with waterfalls and my fountain. And
Yes. The fountain is there.
It was like one of the last things we did. And I was like, we have to put the fountain out there. The fountain is what started this whole thing. So, right? Because the fountain was the first part of the vision. Anyhow, so God bless you for being my realtor and like for telling me like you can do this. Because I mean, how many times did I say, Are you sure you can sell it? I don't know if we can afford this. Like, we might be out in 6 months. We might be out in 3. Lisa, could you sell it? And you were like, yes.
Yes, I can
Remember all
sell.
those? That was a lot of
Yes.
stress, but it was so
Well,
amazing. It's so amazing to wake up in your dream home and you literally like, whose house is this? Like,
do
do
you
I live here?
remember, do you remember sitting in the kitchen of that other house that we were looking at? Which started the whole vision of the pool. And you and Jeff and I still remember, I think I was sitting on the kitchen counter, or somebody was sitting on the kitchen counter, and it was a vacant home. And we sat in that house for a good hour, and the three of us just talked. And it was really you sharing your vision. It was the vision you had for that pool and how you wanted to use it, and your family. And that's where I think that's where that whole conversation then turned to, let's build something, right? Because you had such a specific vision in your mind, which was, amazing to watch and amazing to listen to. And then to watch that come to life, that's what feeds my soul. That absolutely feeds my soul. When I can help somebody get into their dream home, or move to be closer to grandkids, or buy, their first starter home, or whatever it is that we're doing, that personalization of it, that understanding of what really is driving them, that's what feeds my soul now. Really, really feeds my soul.
Well,
And
because you're really good at listening and helping people find that. I mean, you're really amazing at it. And not only that, but you're amazing at negotiation. I mean, it says that in your bio, but truly you are. And I have been a power partner, if you will, like a mastermind or a board of directors. We've been that for each other for many years. We meet like once a week and like spill our guts and try to help each other figure out where to go next so that we weren't
right.
in business by ourselves. And I've seen you grow and change and create this entire beautiful Lisa Little team and all the things that you're doing, and go from, kind of where you had the real estate, you had the staging, to now you're honed in on real estate, buying and selling and building and all that good stuff. And I just have to say, like, you're so good at that piece of listening and hearing. Do you feel like most people walk in to the home buying process or the home building process and like they really aren't clear on what they want? Like, they kind of know what they don't want, but they don't know what they do want.
I think that most people that are entering the home buying, and it really just depends on the stage of life that they're in. If they bought a couple of homes before, or they've sold a couple of homes before, they usually have a little bit more clear understanding. But in all honesty, I think people know more about what they want, but don't know what they don't want. And that's where I try and
That's
get really clear
interesting.
with them. Yes,
That's interesting.
I think it's more important to know what you don't want, than it is to know what you do want. And I think that comes with trial and error. That comes with, let's talk about this. They look at it and they're like, well, I'm not really sure if I like that or not. Okay, well, let's talk about why you like this counter, or why you don't like the way this counter is laid out, or why you like the flow of this house, or why you might not like the flow of this house. And just really getting them to talk and think about it, without giving advice, right? I mean, that is the one thing about being a realtor that I think is the most interesting. And what I love so much about it is that it's not my job to talk you into buying a house. I'm not going to talk you into anything. This is your decision. My job is to facilitate it. My job is to help you find it, help you interpret the market, understand what the values are, negotiate, which I actually really love to do.
I know. God bless you. God
I was
bless you.
thinking about being an attorney once, so I like that
I know. And
part.
you've got a little negotiator daughter coming right behind you.
I do.
Got to change the world.
She puts me to shame, that's for sure. And I think my son actually is quite the negotiator. He's been negotiating with me a lot lately, which is
He
pretty
learned
funny.
from the best. How could he not
Yeah,
be?
I know. I might have taught him a little too well in that one, but it's not my job to sell you on anything. And I think that makes this job, even though they consider it a sales job, and I've always been in sales, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm trying to help facilitate and guide. And that really is a special part of this. So.
Well, and I feel exactly the same way. And I know you know that because you're actually probably the first person who said to me last fall, like, have you thought about just doing coaching as a job? And I was like, oh, I've been asked that over the years, but I was just coaching in this one company. And anyway, and so you saw that in me before I saw it. But I do feel like that piece of, it's people have a God-given dream. They have a path. Like, it's God's job to help figure that out. but then it's our job to sort of fan that flame and help them develop it, and then let them really get to where they want to go. Right. And
Right.
I'm the same way with coaching. Like, I'm not trying to change your dream. I'm just trying to help you get there quicker, and help
Right.
you get there the easiest, and help you get there the least painless, and help you learn the things you need to learn, and equip you to get there. Right. Empower you. So you do the exact same thing with homes. So question, if someone out there, because as a business coach, a leadership coach, someone who has been out there helping people build businesses, and life coach, I will say the number one thing I hear when I say, what's on your bucket list, or if we had a dreams list, which is one of my whole podcasts that hopefully people have already listened to, one of the first things is a dream home. Like, they have a picture sometimes of what they want. But
Mhm.
kind of like where I was, it's like, well, I'm not where I need to be to get that. It's too much money. I have no idea how I'd get there. You know what I mean? You get stuck in all the, I have no idea what that looks like. So what advice would you have to somebody who's either, never had a home, wants to have their own home, or isn't a home, but it isn't their dream home, or maybe it's that they love their home, but they really would love a vacation home, something they can Airbnb, or, because I know you know all about that. So what advice would you give them to get started on that piece of how do we develop it? What do we need to go out there and do?
There's a lot of things I would have people start with. And again, it would depend, I think, on their situation, their circumstances, and where they are. If you're trying to purchase your first home, the most important piece of advice that I would give is that you've got to start talking to a lender right now. If you are not planning to buy a home for 5 years, talk to a lender now. A good lender, and I've got great lenders. A good lender will sit down with you and look at the situation that you're in now. How much are you making? What's your debt look like? Where are you spending your money? And help guide you to where you need to be in order to purchase that first home. Right. So they're going to tell you need to pay these things down, or you need to save up this amount of money, or you need to do this or that, or whatever it is. Or you're really ready now. I know you don't want to do this for 4 years because you don't think you are, but you're really ready now. But talking to a lender is absolutely the first thing. And I think it's the thing that most people avoid. In
Yes,
the
me
beginning,
too.
it's kind of like
Me too.
because it feels raw, right? Somebody's looking at your finances, and maybe
Yes. The
when
finances part, like, it's so hard to be like, "Okay, I know I've done everything I should, but how
right.
do I make this work?" So you're right.
Yes.
It's pain. That's the pain of it, but tell them what the good part is.
The good part is that once they figure out what they need to do, usually it's 10 times less than what they think. It's usually a much better situation. And then they come into the picture crystal clear on what they can afford. And then we can sit down and talk about what that vision looks like now. Like, tell me what that home looks like. Tell me what you're thinking about. And then we can help guide you. Now, if you come in with, a budget of 400,000 and you want, 10 acres out on a ranch with a 5,000 square foot house and a pool, I'm going to tell you, well, we can't do that yet, but we can start, we can get you into the market.
Unless you're in the middle of Montana or something where there's no people and no real estate.
I mean, there
I'm
are
just kidding.
places,
Maybe
there
not.
are places, but you got to get in the market. You've got to start somewhere, right? And I told you earlier, when we bought our first house in California, we overbought. And for the first 3 years, all I kept thinking about was, how am I going to sell this house? I got to sell this house. Why did we buy this house? So we were house poor, and I've lived through that. I know what that feels like. And in the end, it worked out for us, but it was years of kind of suffering through not being able to do anything because we were house poor. Um, so having those conversations, are you okay with that? Are you okay not going on vacation and driving a fancy car while you're building your equity in your house? And if you are, great. If you're not, then we've got to be more realistic in what we're doing. So if you're a first-time buyer, that's the conversation. If you're already in the market and now you're thinking about a vacation home or a vacation rental or something like that, then that's a whole nother conversation about what are you thinking about? Where do you want to go? Because vacation rentals are changing right now, or not even vacation rentals, vacation homes. Let's just say it's a home, whether you're renting it out or not. Vacation homes are changing drastically since the pandemic. More people are working from home now than ever before. I think we're like 20% of the population is working from home across the
Wow.
country, and it's gonna continue to grow. So now you're seeing people using their vacation homes to go and work, right? It's
Which
a hundred,
is so incredibly awesome. Like,
it
how cool
is.
is that? How cool is
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
live in your vacation home?
I was
Woo!
talking to a past client of mine today, and she's leaving for Sioux Falls in 2 weeks because she doesn't like the heat and she's going to go cool off, but she can work there. So she's going for 2 weeks and she's going to work and she's going to cool off. And then her husband's going to come and join her. And then he's going to leave and go back and she's going to stay there. I mean, vacation homes are just a whole different ball game today. And so there's a lot of thoughts around where would you want to buy a vacation home? Are you thinking about somewhere close? Are you thinking about in another state? And if you're thinking about in another state, how do you find somebody there that's going to be able to help you? Right? How do we know that we've got a realtor and a lender and all the things set up in that state? And that's one of the things I love, love, love about what I do is I've got connections all across the country. If you could see my office right now, I have this amazing map up on my wall and I have little stick pins all over it where all the realtors that I know are located. And most of them are in vacation cities. Let me just be clear, because when we were looking for a vacation home, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. So I met a bunch of really good people along the way. So, even if you're looking for something outside of this area, there's always a good opportunities to find good realtors in those areas. So vacation homes are awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's just differences with each type of person, but that's, I think, what's so exciting about what I do is that there is no two deals, no two sales, no two homes that are ever exactly the same. Every time I work with a client, it's different. Every time I see a house, it's different. There's always different things. So you never get bored with this either. I mean, it's always moving and grooving. And I like that. I like to keep on my toes.
Well, and I would just like to say to everyone out there, like, if you haven't ever thought about home ownership, or if you have and thought it was a pain in the butt or whatever your situation
Yeah.
is, like, one of the things that we know for sure, and Lisa is an avid reader, like, she's like me, she's devouring books all the time and she wants to learn all the time. And oh my gosh, she turned me on to Brian Buffini podcast, which is so extraordinary because he is so amazing. And he coaches real estate agents. So he's the guru in real estate. But the thing for me is if you don't really, I don't either know what you want, or you're in this place where you're like, I just don't have any idea if I can make it happen. Like, I feel like, you know, learn as much as you can. But the bottom line is real estate is always going to appreciate over time. Maybe
Mhm.
not this year, maybe not this 5 years, right? We have crazy markets and, California is different than the rest of the United States. But
Right.
in general, unlike a car that you're going to have, that as soon as you drive off the lot, it is worth less. In general, real estate, whether it's land or, home or a commercial property or whatever, generally appreciates. And I feel
Yes.
like as a 52-year-old woman, I didn't know that at 22. I didn't really think of it that way at 22. And now, I mean, think of the Monopoly game. Hello. Now I meet people who are, we met the guy in my neighborhood who was brilliant enough way back, like 30 years ago. He bought and or built, I'm not sure if he built them, you probably know that, but he bought or built parking garages in California. And
Yeah.
that's what he does now. And he just has to
I
check on them every once in a while and they just
I know
make money.
exactly who you're talking about.
Well,
I hope
okay.
to buy their house.
Right. So you know exactly what I'm talking. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that to make. I mean, that's just not something that enters my brain. So if people don't know it, like, the thing is that real estate is one of the best investments you can make. And the game is kind of like the stock market. The goal is to hold it as long as you can, right? Not to just go with the craziness of the market, but to hold it. Can you
Yes.
speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I watch people sometimes who are into buying and selling homes all the time. They buy a home, then they sell it, then they buy a home, and then they sell it. And I look back on, and I'll just talk about my in-laws. When I first met my husband, they had a 5,000 square foot home in Houston. Beautiful home. And they had been there since Bill was probably 6 years old. They owned it outright. And it was in River Oaks, which is one of the most
Wow.
exclusive areas of Houston.
Wow.
When they bought it, it wasn't worth that much, but just holding it for all of those years, that was their retirement. when it was time for them to retire and move from there and move into a smaller place, and they ended up going into assisted living, the money that they had in that house was their retirement. And that taught me a lot, just watching that, because I'm thinking, okay, I don't have to move every 2 years. I can stay here and just let my house appreciate. But you have to get into the market. You have to start somewhere. And that is one thing I'm really trying to teach my kids. Before you turn 30, you should have your first house. Before you turn 30, you've got to purchase your first house. And I don't care if it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo in North Campus, or it's a $400,000 house down in Kyle. I don't care what it is. You need to have your first piece of real estate.
I love that.
And they're both on that track. They're both thinking about it. They're both trying to figure it out. My daughter actually might even get a real estate license before she goes to college. I told her she could be the leasing agent for all of her friends. Whoop, whoop.
How fun. Go,
yeah.
Mackenzie.
There's things you can do there. So, yeah, I think it's really important that you understand that real estate is the best hedge against inflation. It is absolutely no joke at all. This is like the way to build your wealth. But you have to do it smart. You have to think about what you're doing, and you have to work with professionals. You have to work with people who understand. You wouldn't go to the doctor and tell the doctor everything that's wrong with you and what should be prescribed. So don't do the same in real estate if you're not a professional. If this isn't what you do every day, all day, then go to somebody who does do it every day, all day, and who learns and who reads and who listens and who asks advice and all the things that we do in order to make sure that we truly understand. And I will tell you, the Austin market right now is weird. It's a weird market, but we are not the same as the rest of the country. California is doing great. The East Coast is doing great. Florida is doing great. There's a lot of areas around the country that are doing just fine, but Austin and a couple of other little segments are not. And that's because of what happened right after the pandemic. And we as professionals here, we have to understand why. We have to understand why we're here and what's going to bring us out of it and what's to come as best we can. There's no crystal ball, of course. But if we're not learning and watching and reading and studying and analyzing the market on a daily basis, we're not doing our jobs. If you're not a professional at it, you're not doing that because you're dabbling, and that's a whole different topic.
Well, and it's like, if you go to a doctor who's super unhealthy, who's giving you health advice, or if you go to a dentist with no teeth, I mean,
yeah,
you want a realtor who has bought and sold homes. And I mean, for the most part, and you want somebody who really has some, experience in the business before you jump into it with somebody who's new. Like, you need to have experienced people with you. I totally agree with that. And I think the other thing that what you said was so important is just that if you are going to get into it, understand what the value of it is. Like, do a little research on the appreciation over time, and do a little research on why it is important for you to get in the market quickly, and then keep that stuff. If you're going to rent it, that's fine. If you're going to get another property, great. But at least keep it as long as you possibly can, instead of jumping in and jumping out. It's like the stock market, right? I mean, there's a lot of day traders, but there's not a lot of rich traders, right? A lot of the big wealthy people are keeping their stock in the market, and they're changing maybe a little bit of where they have their money, but they're not putting it in, pulling it out, because then you got all those fees associated, right? So, well, I have to say, like, I love you. I mean, our friendship has just been one of the biggest gifts of my life too. I know you said that already, but truthfully, I know you know that, but you're just so good at what you do. And I know that there are people out there that are, one, going to want to connect with you, two, going to want to learn from you. And I know you do a lot in the community. We do a lot together to help other business professionals get better at what they're doing. What is your biggest suggestion if somebody is into real estate, or they just got started? Is Brian Buffini like what you would recommend, or is there something specific you'd recommend for a new realtor or somebody that wants to get into real estate besides joining your team?
For a new realtor, absolutely free. Jump on the Brian Buffini podcast. Just start listening. I had somebody introduce me to Brian Buffini. Actually, she was my mentor. She's a dear friend of mine who now lives up in Spokane, but she was a friend of mine in telecom, and then she got into real estate, and she's the person I always, still to this day, call whenever I have things going on that I just need advice from. And she told me about Buffini, and it took 3 times over the course of 2 years of her telling me about him before I finally just got online and looked him up. And as soon as I heard that first podcast, I knew this was my guy. This is the guy I'm gonna listen to. And I've taken it all the way. I've been coaching with Buffini and Company now for, I think we're at 7 years now that I've been coached by them. But I listened to his podcast. He used to put them out every Tuesday. I think he's doing them more often now, and he's got shorter ones. But just jump in and start listening. They're not all real estate, but most of them are. He is phenomenal. I can't say.
Well, and I'll just say, as someone not in real estate, you turned me on to him, and I love his podcast because he does bring on people who are out there doing it, right? Which is what my goal is too. People out there living their dream. You have a beautiful vacation home. You have a gorgeous home that you've remodeled, and I like your kitchen is to die for, and your backyard is to die for. Anyway, and your, oh my gosh, Happy Moose Lodge. Did I get that right?
Lazy Moose
Oh,
Lodge.
lazy. I think of it as happy, not lazy. But Lazy Moose Lodge, which is gorgeous up in Colorado Springs. And I've been there. You should definitely, we'll definitely link to that, Lisa, in case anyone needs a little quick vacations, they can get their vision on for Colorado and all that it has to offer. Anyway, but my point is just like, I do feel like Brian Buffini has made a difference in my life, and I'm not a realtor. So if you're not, and you want to listen to something to kind of up your game, it's a great podcast to listen to. And he's got lots of free stuff. And he like us is a completely ferocious reader. So he's always learning something new and always bringing on somebody who's done the work. Like one of his funniest things was, like, he said I think he was doing a speaking engagement or something on a panel, and one of the people had written a book about how to buy your home. And this is one of the things that bugs me too, as he said. So, here she is going on stage as the expert, and I'm talking to her backstage, and she says something to the effect of, yeah, well, I bought my first home with the proceeds of the book. And so she had never even bought her own home until she wrote a book about how to buy a home. Right. And then the money from the book is what got her to buy the home. And he was like, that's not who you should be listening to. Right. If you're going to have a money manager, make sure they got some money. Yeah. Right. Like, you want to know they have some success. So anyway, I love that about you. I love that you learn and grow. And I love that you lead by example, and you're not afraid. This is something we together have faced and conquered and now teach to others. You're not afraid of competitors, because like, there's 2 realtors on every transaction. Why in the world would you compete with them? Right. Like,
I love other realtors. They're, I mean, when I get a phone call from a realtor just asking questions and asking for help, I love that. I love that we can collaborate, that we can share, that we can help build each other up. And you're the one who used to always say, you probably still do, but there's more than enough to go around. And if they don't work with me, they're just not they're not who my clients are supposed to be. I have a set client out there, and they're going to find me, and I'm going to find them. And I'm not going to worry about whether or not my neighbor is selling with somebody else or what have you. I'm more worried about, am I taking the best care of my clients, and am I doing the right thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I forget some of the things that are just staples for me, but that is one of them, because I do believe God assigns you the dream, and then he assigns you all the right people and all the right circumstances. So your customer base or your real estate buyers and sellers are all out there. Your job is just to go discover who is assigned to you, because you are assigned to those people. And so when you start to really believe that, which believing is just what you think over and over and over, right? So we can actually grab onto some of these thoughts and ideas and then repeat them for ourselves, so that we start to understand that this is truth with a capital T, is that, they're already there. They're already all there. And so I don't look at anybody as a competitor. I don't look at other coaches or other companies or whatever as a competition. I don't look at Brian Buffini as a competition. I'm not trying to be Brian Buffini. I'm trying to be Joan, and you're trying to be Lisa. So I think that's a beautiful thing that you brought up. So thank you for saying that. Well, okay. So I have a few things to ask you real quick. I'm kind of like Brian. I have a few questions at the end that I try to remember to say. I don't always remember it. I didn't remember it in the last podcast. So I'm going to try to do it, but real quick. How can people find you, connect with you if they want to know more, whether it's, hey, I want to be on the Lisa Little real estate team, or it's, hey, I want to buy or sell a house, or I need advice, how do they reach you?
You can find me anywhere. It's the Lisa Little Team, and it has the in front of it, thelisalittleteam.com. You can also find us on Facebook, the Lisa Little Team, and you can find us on Instagram. So any of those, and my phone number's on there, my email's on there. Send me smoke signals, however you want to do it. I answer my phone, I answer text, but those are the easiest ways probably to find me.
Okay. And we'll put all of that in the show notes. And I just want to say Bill Little is one lucky man for finding you. And he's precious. I love him to death. But here's the deal. Like, thank God you didn't have like the Lisa Schlotsky's team or something. Like everyone knows how to spell Lisa Little.
It's a name that's easy, and I won't share my maiden name because that was not easy. So I was happy to change to a nice simple name. Although you'd be amazed how many people still need me to spell it, but that's okay.
Oh, well, of course, it's fine. Little, Little. Okay, so spelling bee. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so here's my quick questions for you. One, who in your whole life, like who do you feel like has been the biggest inspiration or had the most impact?
Biggest inspiration or had
Okay, we're not counting Jesus. I'm just saying.
Yeah, besides Jesus, yes.
Yes, besides Jesus.
Besides Jesus, biggest inspiration and most impact. I'm really going to probably say my parents, and I'm going to say both of them. My dad, entrepreneur his whole life. He taught me to visualize. He taught me to dream. He taught me, he basically always told me I could do anything my brothers did. And back when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, that wasn't something that was always being said. So I think for sure. And my mom taught me grace. And she taught me how to listen because she's an amazing listener.
Oh, that's awesome. Your parents are precious too. So that's so cool. All right. This next question is a little bit of a doozy for us. So what book other than the Bible has been the most helpful to you? And I will just say, you can say recently, or you can say all time, because I know that's a big, tall order for us who read all the time.
I do.
What's one that you're like, man, I always recommend this?
Can I say two?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course you can.
Okay. So the first one is going to be The Miracle Morning.
Yes. Hal Elrod. Thank you, Hal
Yes.
Elrod, who lives here close to us.
He does. And
we haven't met him, but we love him. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
He has another great podcast. Yes.
Miracle Morning has changed my life. So I highly recommend that. And then my second, or probably tied with that one, is going to be Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. That is it's a negotiation book. He was an FBI hostage negotiator. So the book has got lots of really good, stories in there that goes along with it. But it has absolutely transformed how I listen to my kids, how I listen to my husband, how I listen to my clients, and how I negotiate. It's not just a business book, it's a life book. So I highly recommend.
I agree. I love both of those books.
Yeah, they're great.
This is what I'm telling you, half of our conversation is probably what book we're reading right now and why it's so good. And then we immediately, like, while we're still sitting at the coffee shop, we buy it, right? Yeah. And then we're like, okay, I'm getting it right now. Yep. So that is awesome. Do you do audiobooks a lot or no?
Sometimes I did for the Never Split the Difference, because there was so much in there that what I was doing actually was I was listening to it, and then I was reading those chapters, and then I would listen to a chapter, and then I would read a chapter, just read the same chapter again, so I could get it both. Usually though, when I'm doing audiobooks, it's because I'm driving, and I'm usually listening to something like a John Grisham book or something,
Well, and I'm telling you, I call it Automobile University. I mean, my poor kids have listened to so many self-help books and self-improvement books and educational books in the car with me, because I'm either listening to a podcast or an audiobook. And most of the time these days, I mean, if you dial back 20 years, it probably wasn't this way. It was all fiction, but now it's all like, how do I improve? How do I help a client? How do I help coach somebody that's going through this that maybe I don't understand? And anyway, it's just a brilliant use of your time if you can. So, all right, are you ready? Next question is, what is one dream that you still haven't fulfilled or still on your bucket list?
Okay, it's a dream that I didn't even realize I had until recently.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yes, and it is to own a home on a lake with a boat. I was introduced to being on a boat in a lake by Michelle. She's my counterpart and a friend of mine, and we've worked together forever and we've known each other forever. And they took us out on their boat when we were in California. And every time I get on a boat on a lake, now no ocean boats, I'm just talking lakes, I become totally at peace. There's something about that just brings me so much peace. And when Bill and I were just recently talking about maybe buying another vacation home somewhere, I just looked at him and I said, I really want a place on a lake that we can have a boat. And he's like, really? You've never mentioned that before. And I said, I didn't even know it was a dream. But yeah, that's something that I really, really want to accomplish.
That's awesome. And I love that for you because we went to a lake house not too long ago with our families. I mean, that was at least 2 or 3 years ago now, probably, Lisa, but
Yeah.
the hilariousness that ensued with the
Yeah. Right.
boat and the storm and us on our floaties trying to get in the boat. And poor Bill driving that sucker around, trying
He
to like
almost
knock
ran us over.
and like cut us up with the blades. And I mean, like, it was, y'all have heard me talk about this in this podcast. Like, I am not judgmental. And part of it is because I have literally fallen down so many times and I have the really, really bloody knees that are all cut up all the time. But it was hilarious because I literally was like, this is how people die on a lake. And I'd always gone like, how do you die? I mean, are they drinking too much? Like, how do you die in a lake? This is how, because that storm came up so fast. Anyway, you're talking about the calm lake, and I'm picturing us trying not to laugh, like
Yeah.
dying to get in the boat.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, it was hilarious. But that was the exception. Lakes are awesome. I totally agree with you, and that was such a good fun time. So I'm excited to come to your lake house because I've already met you.
As soon as we have one, I'll call you.
All right. So what is your one hidden talent that we don't know about? Like, what's something you can do that's kind of your little hidden superpower?
I mean, well, I don't know if nobody
but
knows it, but I'm gonna say two again. My garden, my vegetable garden, which I love, love, love to do. And but my family would say cooking. I'm Italian. I make my own sourdough bread. I make my own pasta sauce. I learned this from my mom and my grandparents and great grandmother. And so I would probably say cooking is my
I would totally agree with you. And being my realtor, you were like, you got to get one of those instant pots for your stove. And I was like, why? And you were like, so you can cook pasta. I'm like, I don't cook pasta that much. And you're like, why not? Like, don't you cook homemade tomato sauce? I'm like, no, but I would really like some of yours, please. Anyway, so yeah, I would totally agree with that. I was literally on the tip of my tongue, was like, sourdough. You just like, she's now become a sourdough guru. So God bless you. That is so amazing. And I love sourdough. So here we go. All right. This is the last one. So what's the most amazing place that you've either traveled to or that you really would like to travel to? Because you know me, I will work for travel. So I'm always looking for new, exciting places. So what's your fave?
Oh boy.
It's a hard question.
It is. It is. I haven't been to so many places that are on my dream places for me. I have to say that Tuscany in Italy was just probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And I mean, really getting into the countryside of Tuscany was fabulous. But I will also say that when we got married, we went to Australia and New Zealand, and we took a little cruise up in Cairns, which is up near the Great Barrier Reef. And we went scuba diving up there. And that was probably the most fabulous thing I think I've ever done. We saw a nurse shark giving birth. I mean, it was insane. It was absolutely gorgeous. So that might be one of those top ones too.
Well, and we lived through you on Facebook when you were going to Tuscany with your husband. I was like, it looks like a movie. Like you were in a movie. And shout out to our real estate agent, Tina Shands. I'm gonna have to have her on too, because she's another dream maker out there.
Yes.
But you know, gosh, that was a fabulous trip. So y'all keep sharing your Facebook photos with everybody, because we want to live through you if you're traveling, because
yes,
for those of us that's the dream.
Yes.
Lisa and I both have said, all right, our kids are all launching, we get to travel the world together, right?
That's
Jeff
right.
and Bill get along, engineering brains. Me and Lisa will talk all day. They can go get the boat. We'll just sit around and talk and have a great time. So, well, thank you so incredibly much for being on here. Thank you so much for being a huge support system in my life. I do not know what I would do without you. You literally are just one of those North Star people for me. If I ever have problems in my life or in my business, I know I can come to you and you will non-judgmentally love me like a Christian should. And you will guide me in the right direction, or at least try to point me in what way you think looks good for now that I will be safe and okay with. And I don't know how I did life before Lisa Little. I mean, don't all your clients say that? Like, how do we do life with before Lisa Little?
I hope they do, but I will just say to you, I feel exactly the same way. And I am so, again, so proud of you for getting this dream of yours launched so quickly. I should not have thought it was going to happen any other way. And I cherish our Monday mornings at IHOP, which nobody better show up because it's our time.
We
And
can always change. It's fine.
yeah, that's true. We can always have some. I mean, we've been doing this now for what, 7-8 years, meeting almost every week, with a couple blips in time when it just didn't work for us. But the honesty and the guidance and just the ability to just say what I need to say, know that I'm being heard. You're just an amazing human being, and I couldn't do it without you.
Oh, it's a love fest. I love you too. And I feel the same way. And it is funny because I often think, is anyone in IHOP listening to us? Because we like bare our souls in IHOP.
Yeah.
Maybe we should change. Maybe someone's going to be recording now, but no, I'm just kidding. It's fine. I literally have, you know me, I have no secrets really. Yeah. So, well, I love doing life with you. And I just want to say really quick to listeners, whew, what a God project this is. Thank you so much for listening. Please, please, if you know people that just need hope, they just need to reignite their dreams. I feel like after COVID crazy, everybody's in the same boat. We're trying to revive ourselves and get ourselves back to joy and back to peace and back to really having a vision for your life. Please, please do me a favor and share this podcast, subscribe. And I just want to say to you personally, I truly, no kidding, if we were together, I would hug you. I'd probably hold you, probably too long. You'd feel like it was awkward. But I just want you to know that I believe in you. I believe you were put here for a time such as this. I believe that God has given you a dream and a purpose that only you can do. It was assigned to you before you were knitted together in your mother's womb. And I believe it's your turn to walk it out. I believe there is a way forward that you may not see a way, but there is a way forward for you that is going to amaze you. It's going to amaze everybody around you. And I hope that you will take that first step. And I hope that this podcast bless you. And I hope if you're buying or selling a home, you call this Lisa Little because she's the best. All right, everybody, have a great day.